physical activity and cardiovascular disease. Let me start first by going over the technical side of the video where it talks about shear stress. And shear stress causes blood vessel relaxation. It drops blood pressure and increases perfusion. Shear stress basically is a signal transduction, and it eventually activates enos and induces production of nitrogen oxide. Now, by increasing the production of nitric oxide, it increases delivery of oxygen and nutrients to tissues while reducing blood pressure. Now, low ESS is not good and can lead to increase of LDL. Now, there are several cross-sectional studies that have found an inverse association between CRF and C-reactive protein and inflammatory markers as predictors of CVD. Now, CR fitness helps reduce blood pressure and the reduce metabolic syndrome, and it also reduces insulin resistance. Now, let me jump over to physical activity and cardiovascular disease. There was 13 prospective cohort studies published between 1995 and 2007, and they found a risk reduction of 30% to 35% of developing CHD. Even the small amounts of physical activity was associated with a reduced risk. Now, there was 4 more studies after 2008 that they reached the same conclusion. There was a medium reduction of 40% of developing CHD or CVD. Now, the studies measured leisure time, household occupation, and community activity. The CHD included myocardial infarction, revascularization procedures, and anemia. Now, the 2008 guidelines require, or they recommend 150 minutes per week of moderate or 45 minutes a week of vigorous intensity aerobic activity. Now, there are studies that have found out that if you change the intensity, it does reduce the relative risk, and based on the Harvard alumni study that was done. Now, there was the Aerobic Center longitudinal study that concluded that even running for 5 to 10 minutes a day at a lower pace was associated with a reduction of risk of death from all causes of CVD. So to me, that was amazing. Now, we jump over to cardiorespiratory fitness. And cardiorespiratory fitness is measured, is lab measured, and is less subject to bias than self-reported physical activity. Now, CRF is expressed in metabolic equivalence or maximal oxygen uptake. So you have that would become your gold standard. Now, you can use the carbonine formula to determine the target heart rates. Now, the CRF can also be expressed as multiples of metabolic equivalence. For example, reading is considered 1 MAT, or working on the computer can be 3 METs. Now, MAT is defined as the amount of oxygen consumed while sitting at a rest, and is equal to 3.5 per body weight times the minutes. A med value for a 50-year-old, a poor MAT would be 8, and for a woman would be 6 MAT. Now, CRF is affected by gender, age, and genetics, just to name a few. Genetics play a factor in CRF and has great influence on cardiovascular disease. Just one dose response analysis found that if you increase 1 MET in CRF, it was associated with 13% reduction from causes of mortality. And even running 2 minutes a day has its benefits. Evidence shows that CRF is associated with subsequent change in weight gain. So what I took from this lesson overall is that any type of physical activity helps you live longer. You're reducing your risk. Now, I did go to the American Heart Association, and it's something new for me. What I found out on the website was that now we're working longer hours. We're not doing, the jobs are more, you're not doing a lot of exercise. You're mainly sitting down, maybe in front of a computer. So, I mean, it leads to more weight gain. More Americans are more obese. The American Heart Association website has different ways, has a lot of tips for you to become active. They have programs, they have ways to track your activity. For example, I'm thinking that maybe parking further, instead of trying to get the first parking space at a major grocery store, park further. It talks about finding ways to stay active, not only for you, but for your whole family. They have different programs that you can participate. So I think this website is very helpful, the American Heart Association. And in there you can find even ways to keep your children active as well. And overall, what I learned this week is that any type of physical activity, whether it talks about swimming, playing tennis, walking at a fast pace, any type of exercise, as long as you're active, it does not require you to join a gym or an exercise program. The main point of this week was for you or for us to stay active in order to reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. Thank you.